Hey guys, can you hear me now? Can someone confirm if they can hear me, please? So we can, because we had a bit of an issue with the previous live stream. You can hear me. Perfect. Lovely. Okay, we had a bit of a technical issue previously. All right. Thank you so much for confirming. We had this before. Sometimes the sound resonates again with live streams, and we have to start them from the beginning. Yeah. So I deleted it. I deleted the other one. And now this will be the live stream. You can hear me well. Thank you so much. How are you all? Are you doing well? Okay. So in this live stream, I'm just going to be talking about Habibi Mahmoud. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking about the reveal that Israel made about all of the Hamas amendments for the potential ceasefire. In the live stream yesterday, I spoke about Hamas submitting their amendments for the Paris papers that spoke about the potential ceasefire, and that was meant to be a guideline to the potential ceasefire. So obviously with these initial papers, they're usually not fully in favor of the resistance. I mean, similar to negotiations when it comes to business or whatever, you will have some back and forth action going on. So Hamas submitted their details. Israel revealed those details. And what did they speak about? So we've had multiple Israeli news networks, Channel 12, 13, Ma'ariv, Yediot, main Israeli mainstream media, they published this information that Hamas requested. So it's based on that. Now, again, not everything might be 100% confirmed, but it could make some sense in terms of the actual amendments that Hamas wanted for the ceasefire. What did they talk about? They spoke about the three stages. First stage, 45 days. Women, children, and everyone over 50 will be released. Rebuilding hospitals and residential places in a max amount of 3 years. Fuel supply, electricity, water guarantee, factories and civil services buildings, civil defense, heavy equipment going in Gaza. IDF withdrawal from central places in Gaza, stopping all Air Force activity, 500 trucks daily, which is pre-war levels of trucks going into Gaza from Egypt, 60,000 temporary houses and 200,000 proper tents to house, obviously, all of the refugees, everyone who was misplaced and fled the heavy bombardment areas and their houses that were destroyed. And another thing, ending the ceasefire consultations before entry to the second stage. The second stage will include, so they want to conclude all of the talks in the initial stage about the guidelines on how we are going to end this war. The second stage, according to these reports, will include 1,500 heavy sentence prisoners released, 500 of which will be named by Hamas. Hamas will choose 500, but they will submit 1,500 names to be released. Guarantees that they won't be imprisoned again, very tough one. Again, it'll be for 45 days, similar to the third one and the first one. All males released and more Palestinian prisoners. Complete withdrawal from Gaza in the second stage. And the third stage would include 45 days of ceasefire, release of bodies. They had another request, Hamas, which is going to pre-2002 situation in Al-Aqsa and stopping aggression against Al-Aqsa, because Israel created a new type of reality or status quo in Al-Aqsa after 2002. Now, most likely, the soldiers, the heavy ones, in terms of Israel, will be left up until the last second. because Hamas holds them as the main cards. These were the things that Israel released. Excuse me 1 second. So, another important thing that happened today, Blinken in Israel, he wanted to meet on his own with the IDF chief. They never requested this previously. Herzi Halevi, he wanted to meet with the IDF chief Blinken. That usually doesn't happen. You need to have political leadership. Israelis went fuming, including Benjamin Netanyahu, who spoke about this in a statement, which I will reach in a second, where he rejected this clearly from what he stated. But a state official said, "We're not a banana republic and won't accept a foreign diplomat meeting with the IDF chief without presence of political level officials." Why did he want to meet Herzi Halevi? We will get to that in a second. It includes the conflicts inside of the Israeli military and political leadership that we've been speaking about all along, and potentially them reaching a deal with the IDF chief. This is like coup level stuff, potentially, but obviously you won't hear many people talking about this. Channel 12 and Channel 14 in Israel made interesting statements. A couple of commentators said, let's say the truth, Sinwar, Hamas leader in Gaza, is playing with us all at the moment. He knows our sensitivities and weak points very well, and he studied the mentality of Israelis. So they're confirming that Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader, is playing with them. Another interesting thing was mentioned by the previous head of the Mossad, Tamir Prado. Tamir Prado said, we have to agree to a deal dictated by Yahya Sinwar. This is the previous Mossad head, the main intelligence agency in Israel, and the most well-known one, saying that they need to submit to Yahya Sinwar's conditions. Netanyahu, the main thing that we want to talk about, he is having none of that. What he said resembles an outright rejection of everything. The man didn't even speak about the potential of a ceasefire. He said, we will not submit to these outrageous demands from Hamas. And in his press statement that he had a couple of hours ago, he said the following, and then I'll open the space for you guys to have your comments, and we'll read some of them and any questions that you may have. He said, we're going to reach complete victory within 3 months. The war will continue with full force. We went in despite warnings. We killed and injured, listen to the statistic, over 20,000 Hamas members. We ordered action in Rafah. So he's confirming that they're going to take action in Rafah. We will act within international law. That's just reassure you guys. If anyone was concerned, Benjamin Netanyahu will act within international law. God forbid, Israel, they don't act outside of the international law, you know that. We will continue till the end, and only complete victory is needed for the safety of the south and the north, in reference to Hezbollah. We are a touch away from complete victory, which will be a victory for the free world. So if you consider yourselves the free world, this victory will be yours as well. Israel's victory and Netanyahu's victory. We are talking about the day after Hamas, not the day after Israel. And he told Blinken that after we collapse the Hamas, we will make sure that Gaza will be totally disarmed, and we will continue to act there. The Middle East, according to Netanyahu again, is going either towards darkness or light. The light is represented by Israel, the darkness is represented by Hamas. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu said in his statement earlier on. He obviously made some statements and he had conflicting statements in the press conference. Firstly, another thing he mentioned is we destroyed all of the Hamas brigades. So not 20 out of 24, all of them. He said they destroyed every Hamas brigade in Gaza. Then he was asked a question: how do you reach total victory if Hamas is getting aid and is basing itself in the north, like multiple reports stated previously? He said, we need to destroy the Hamas. We're getting aid for the population, and if we don't get aid in, it will affect our operation, and we need to destroy the Hamas brigades. You just said 10 minutes ago that you destroyed them. Now he's saying we need to destroy them. Imagine the contradiction in the same press conference. He made this contradicting claim that he demolished them, and then he's saying he wants to destroy them. Well, you said you destroyed them. Why are you saying I want to destroy them then? So far he can reach with his lies. He's an excellent marketing guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, but when you lie so much, something will slip. And he said our accomplishments speak for themselves. Another question that one reporter raised is his disagreement with Benny Gantz. He refused to have a press conference with him. Not the first time. We spoke about this many times, many examples of him. Gallant and Gantz, refusing to have press conferences together because of their severe differences. They have massive differences between them, and they didn't want to have a press conference together because Benny Gantz cannot stand Benjamin Netanyahu. Neither does Gallant, by the way, who met with the Mossad, by the way. He hasn't been meeting with the Mossad. Netanyahu banned him. Now he's meeting with him. So clearly there's something going on here. There's a power battle inside of Israel. After he said, they asked him about Benny Gantz, he said, we need unity. So you're confirming that there is no unity in Israel, and that's why it's so difficult to reach a ceasefire. His comment on Blinken wanting to meet with the IDF chief without political presence, without political level presence in Israel, he said this was rejected. It's not acceptable for a politician of a foreign country to come and meet with the IDF chief without the presence of the political level in Israel. What do we make out from all of this, and where are things heading towards? Benjamin Netanyahu is the prime minister of Israel. He is the one that legally makes the decisions. The man said they're continuing the war up until they beat the Hamas. He said it's going to take many more months. If Benjamin Netanyahu is lying, okay, let's say he's lying, and because he lied previously and he backtracked, like they did with the temporary ceasefire. If he's lying, he's shooting himself in the foot. The likelihood is he is quite serious with what he's doing, because when Israel broke the temporary ceasefire, many people thought that Israel would retract and then they would continue to have a prisoner exchange with the Palestinians, because the confirmation from the temporary ceasefire was, we will keep extending the ceasefire day by day, and we will have 3 Palestinians released, 3 Anas Balishab, thank you very much. Thank you so much. We will continue. He said if they continue the ceasefire, 3 Palestinians will be released for 1 Israeli prisoner in Gaza. But they continued. They had almost 4 months after this temporary ceasefire. So Netanyahu, he could be very, very serious. And Blinken's attempt to try and meet with the IDF chief could have potentially been an attempt to try and reach a deal with him rather than Benjamin Netanyahu, because people are not speaking with Benjamin Netanyahu from some of the Arab world who are important and play a role despite their apathy and all of the criticism that we have against the Arab states and their lack of action or enough action when it comes to this genocide. They're dealing with Benny Gantz. So this in brief is what's happening. We could be potentially looking at a very, very long genocide and barbarism. And unless Israel backtracks and does something very, very significant, Netanyahu does a U turn, and he has done so previously, we are looking to continue this war, and there won't be any potential. Saying that, they are meeting, they have cabinet meetings, they're discussing, so there are talks, obviously, that are not in the public domain inside of Israel. Hamas is going to be in Cairo to discuss the potential response of Israel. That's if there is a response. This man is declaring that they're not going to have, and he didn't say anything about the ceasefire. He just said we won't abide by the ridiculous claims of Hamas. After they have this cabinet meeting, if something will be released tomorrow, it might shed some light as to where things are going. And again, will he ditch Ben Gvir and Smotrich in favor of continuing with Gantz and Gallant, Eisenkot, and potentially having Lapid in? Again, we will see about that. Lisbeth Frostop Larsen, thank you very much. And CH, thank you very much. CH, thanks for all your work. Pretty vile how Israel and co are turning what were once tropes used to demonize Jewish people onto Palestinians. Absolutely, they use this whole Jewish thing for their political gain. Zionism uses and abuses Judaism as a religion to justify their crimes and barbarisms ever since they were established, really. Anas also commented, if Netanyahu accepts a ceasefire with Hamas, that means security picture will no longer be on Israeli terms. Won't that effectively end Zionism? It obviously will be another submission, Anas. But they have submitted previously. They've submitted in 2009, 2012, 2014. They've submitted Israel. They've submitted to Hezbollah twice. Would that effectively end Zionism? So when we talk about the end of Zionism or the end of the political ideology of Zionism, because some people refer to Zionism obviously as the Jewish connection to Israel. And obviously the Zionism manipulated all of that. But when we talk about Zionism now, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about aggressive, occupying, supremacist Zionism. This is what we're talking about, apartheid Israel, the movement that established Israel, that was established by people who were not even Jewish. It began, again, we spoke about this yesterday, as a Christian movement. Ending Zionism, it would require more time, and obviously there needs to be a change within Israel too. And again, when you talk about ending an oppressive ideology, this is something that should be really crystal clear. How can there be an ideology that is based on erasing other people, right? And in the live stream yesterday, we spoke about how, because another a subscriber mentioned something along the lines of what you're asking. There is supremacy behind it, not just from Israel, but from the countries that support Israel. It isn't just Israel who's the problem. Omar Zagmut Shahbar, sorry if I mispronounced it, by the way. Thank you very much for your kindness. Let's see what other comments you made and what other questions you have. Jack Ayub said, definitely Israel will never be the same or looked at in the world community before 7 of October. No, they won't. I mean, And they've done us a favor, by the way, by doing that, because I said in one of my previous videos how Israel did in this genocide, in this horrible genocide, atrocious, barbaric genocide, they did what no other Palestinian or pro-Palestinian movement has ever done to reveal the true face of Zionism. And Israel constantly had governments that were very good at hiding the ugliness, the ugly side. Like, for example, when we talk about settlements, like many of these settlements were expanded under supposedly left-leaning governments in Israel, and people shouldn't forget that. That's why when there were the judicial reform protests in Israel, there was criticism, especially from the Palestinian side in Israel, and some of the left, very left or genuine left in Israel, about the fact that you cannot be upset when you're about to have a dictatorship to preserve Jewish supremacy in Israel. If you're upset, you need to be upset about the whole apartheid regime against the Palestinian people too. So that's in brief when it comes to this question. Let me just try and go to the initial questions you had. Okay, let's go down to the bottom. He claimed, juror number 6 said he claimed it would be a quick war at first. No, they claimed it will be a long war from the beginning. As a matter of fact, if you recall, in the early days, they said we're talking about a campaign that could potentially last for 10 years. These were the initial claims in Israel, and they talk about a minimum of 6 to 12 months. But some people spoke about 10 years. And from the way things are going, you see, that's the thing. With Israel, obviously you can't beat Hamas. You have two bad situations. Either you reach a deal or you don't reach a deal. If you reach a deal, it's basically damage control. If you don't reach a deal, you're deepening the problem. You're creating more lack of certainty within Israeli community. Millions of Israelis are already out. They stopped releasing statistics in Israel. And if you withdraw, well, that's also no reassuring, is it? Because how can you live with someone who can pose such a big threat against you? So they did say it would be a long war in the beginning. Z, oh look, Naziaho ran into a Yasin 105. Clearly this Yasin 105 is really having its toll on Israel. Hi from Ireland, Paul. Hello, Ireland. Let's see what other comments you had. Kate, Benny Gantz is as evil as Milikovsky. Netanyahu. You know, all of them are awful. The political ruling class in Israel has always been awful. As a matter of fact, the beacon of peace, who they called him, right? Yitzhak Rabin, they called him that. When he tried to reach peace process with the Palestinians, and really there was a hopeful period back then, you know, Israelis, excuse me, they were protesting in their hundreds of thousands to support peace, finally giving the Palestinians a state, having peace with Syria. This man himself, he participated in the Nakba in 1948. He killed many people. But he tried to reach a deal. So there's evil and there's lesser evil. However, with Netanyahu, the thing with him, is it's really mission impossible. Saying that, Netanyahu, and I'm not sure many of you know this, Netanyahu was the one who paved the way for Arab Palestinians in Israel to get into the government. Like before, you had an Arab Palestinian party inside the Israeli government, the coalition, a couple of years ago. And there were split decisions between obviously Palestinians in Israel about whether going or not going, because the situation is quite complicated. Netanyahu was the one who initiated conversations with them because he always needed people to save his government. And this movement is part of the Islamic movement, by the way, that has ideological roots with the Muslim Brotherhood. As a matter of fact, they had violent resistance inside of Israel in the 80s, and then they had a change of ideology. They said we need to do it differently in Israel, and Netanyahu was the one who paved the way for them to be in an Israeli government. Obviously, the far right was outraged. It shifted the political scene in Israel slightly inside. But then again, Netanyahu, all through that period, he started enticing against the Arab population, the Palestinian population in Israel so much that it led to the government that he has at the moment. And they're doing everyone a favor by showing us the true face, really. Jetmir Reka, why want to talk to the army chief alone? Clearly, US is not trusting the politicians. Yes, there is distrust in the politicians. The situation between the US administration and the Israeli administration isn't great. And, you know, obviously they're tied, right? Because America considers Israel a state, like it's the US state in the Middle East. But that doesn't say they can't have rough periods between them. And clearly, speaking with Netanyahu is very difficult. So it could be the case of distrust also, but also an attempt to try and reach somewhat of a solution with the army. And Israel took it really seriously because you could potentially be talking about a coup. Miss Anonymous 617, I don't understand how you go from the oppressed to psychotic oppressors. Interesting. Very interesting. Because what the Jewish people went through in World War II, which was awful, and it was awful on not just the Jewish people, by the way, the majority of the people who were killed in World War II were Christians or people with other religious beliefs. Obviously, you can't talk on behalf of all of the Jewish people when it comes to that. However, there were Holocaust survivors that went to Israel, and there were also Holocaust survivors that completely rejected the idea of Israel as a country. Some of them might have carried that trauma or resentment as to what happened to them and took it out on the Palestinians unjustifiably, obviously, through brainwashing from the Zionist movement. But let's remember that when it comes to the Jewish population, they've been split more than ever when it comes to Israel. You see so much activism from Jewish movements, whether it's in the US, the UK, and other parts of the world, inside of Israel even, against what their country is doing. And this is just increasing that division. I mean, I haven't seen previously so much action being taken from Jewish people against Israeli actions. And I also like to distinguish always between obviously Jewish and Zionist. It's very important to distinguish, and also between Israeli and Semitic, right? Because they obviously like to use the term Semitic, again, unsubstantiated, because none of the people who speak about Semitism are Semites themselves. We're Semites. We're natives of Al-Sham, right? But yeah, that's in brief about that question. Dolores, thank you very much. And all of the super thanks. Ari Magoo, thank you. Let me see where we reached. Rizwana, do you think there is any possibility to review and come to a diplomatic solution, particularly from the USA? Yeah, yes, there is a potential for that, but there would need to be a very, very big shift in the approach of the United States when it comes to Israel, because we've seen how much they support Israel without any question. So there is obviously a possibility of that, but there needs to be a dramatic change. And don't underestimate in how effective the protests are, the talking is, the spread of awareness, because they were used to doing all of these crimes behind closed doors. Like no one was asking about the suffering of the people in Gaza or in the West Bank, obviously, in general, I'm saying on a mass scale. Obviously, some people are activists all of their life about the day to day struggle. But it only came to light after the 7th of October and after Israel's genocide. So there is, but there needs to be a very big shift, and you need more pressure um, against politicians, decision makers who are supporting this to reach that change, because people don't just change like that out of will. Because if you're powerful and you're in a strong position, why should you change? You you change when it becomes untenable for you to remain the same, whether for your political gain or financial gain. Damage control, like the United States, when it comes to conflicts, and it's an ongoing strategy from the US administration, is they like to have conflicts on a low heat. They don't like things escalating and getting out of control. And what's happening now is it's slowly getting things out of control. This could be a contributing factor to a change diplomatically, but so far we're seeing them obviously supporting Israel almost without question. But this support is also limited, and it has been more limited uh, after, excuse me, the temporary ceasefire. Kate, question: what will Hezbollah's next step be? It seems that people have been targeted. The attack that happened, I released another video. You can watch it after this live stream. It was against Hezbollah of Iraq, not Lebanon. So if you mean their retaliation, I elaborated on this in the other video. There could be retaliation from Hezbollah in Lebanon because they both belong ideologically and by allegiance to the religious leadership in Iran. There could be a big escalation unless we have again an all-out diplomatic solution that will end the genocide in Gaza. And potentially we're talking about the withdrawal of the rest of the US forces in in Iraq. YSH, why should I support Palestine? Interesting question. I don't think it's about supporting Palestine. It's about supporting the oppressed. Traditionally, if you see someone committing a crime against someone, would you stand with the oppressor or with the oppressed? I mean, the moral thing is to stand with the oppressed. The situation in Palestine is not about nationality, it's not about religion, in my opinion. It's about injustice. And as human beings, the noble and the right thing to do is to stand with the people who are being oppressed, who have atrocities committed against them, who are suffering from injustice. So, whether it's the Palestinians, whether it's the Israelis, whether it's anyone really, you need to be morally consistent with this. And one of the main things that we have against what's happening in the mainstream media is the lack of moral consistency when it comes to this. They're not consistent. So they'll tell you Israel has a right to defend itself, and the Palestinians don't have a right to defend themselves, for example. So that's in short. Samson asked me a question in Arabic. Wow, the questions are flying. Am I able to go back to the top? It looks like I can't. But it was something about Lebanon. It was something about Lebanon attacking. It's still tense in Lebanon. Let me try and see if I can. Ken Roth, the Green Party. They've been. At least they weren't as bad as Labour and the Tories. I mean, politics in Britain and in the United States, it's so bad. They're probably going to get more votes, the Green Party. But when it comes to like a really good stance with this, I haven't seen anything that's to the level it should be in the UK. George Galloway is going back, so George Galloway's always been a very firm supporter of Palestine, so he could have more momentum. But obviously George Galloway, in terms of political party, I'm not sure how it's gonna happen with him. He had respect previously, so I'm not sure how it's gonna happen. But he will probably get more votes this time as well, because he's been a long time supporter. Muhammad Abbasi, do you think Iran will go to war for Palestine? As a state, Iran officially, obviously, they support their allies. They support Palestine. They support the Palestinian resistance with arms, politically, militarily. For them to intervene as a state and any other country, official intervention as a state, it would be really, really a last resort, because there are legal and political implications. That's why Iran is playing a clever game. They have their allies, some people call them their proxies, more or less following Iranian orders, but not all the time. Like, you need to understand there is independence with some of Iranian allies, especially when it comes to like Palestine. For example, Hamas, they don't like follow the religious leadership in Iran, and they had disagreements with Iran, but Iran still supports them unconditionally. Really, Iran supports the Palestinian cause. We need to say that. You have many people criticizing this and saying they have their own interests, whatever. Iran proved that they support the Palestinian cause unconditionally, even if they have disagreements with some of the political parties. And it was even before Hamas was established. Don't forget that. Like, Khomeini used to be with Yasser Arafat back then. But going to war for Palestine as in involved as a state, that's really a last resort. Nino Legend. IOF fears Al Qassam brigades. Yes, they do. They fear them a lot, and they've been getting a lot of beating from them in Gaza. As a matter of fact, this is the biggest humiliation, military humiliation from an infantry group, a small group, against one of the supposedly most advanced militaries in the Middle East, or in the world, some people say. By the way, sorry if I'm missing some of the comments, because it goes out and I'm unable to reach all their comments, so I'm just scrolling through. Oh, I reached the question in Arabic. Samson asked in Arabic, will the Lebanese party intervene if they attack Rafah? Thank you. Well, Hezbollah intervened from day two in a limited manner. They didn't want to intervene to a level where it would break an all-out war on Lebanon, but they intervened to a level where they took a lot of resources from the Israeli military, intelligence, air force, tanks, that limited to where Israel can go and how far they can go in Gaza. Yankee Klein, Muslim guys are safe in Israel, not in Palestinian, not in most Muslim countries, and you are talking about freedom. If you mean the Palestinian citizens of Israel or who were born in Israel like myself, yeah, there is relative freedom, more obviously than Gaza and the West Bank. But saying that, we all know that there is religious supremacy in Israel. You have a nation state law that says Israel is the nation of the Jewish people. We have a lot of things that are targeted against the Palestinian community in Israel. And yes, there is lack of freedoms in the Muslim countries. Who said Muslim countries are perfect? Many of them are authoritarian. But we're talking about the situation in general. So the notion that they have like complete freedom is Israel is flawed. There are more freedoms in Gaza than there are more freedoms of Palestinians in Israel than Palestinians have in Gaza and the West Bank, because you're talking about a full throttle apartheid regime over there, and it's complicated when it comes to Israel because the system is a three-way thing rather than South Africa, for example. You had a whole situation in South Africa, right? Whites and blacks. With Israel, you're talking about a certain system in the West Bank, another system in East Jerusalem, and another in Gaza. And what we're talking about here is the root cause of the problem, ending inequality, ending supremacy. That's why I call for equality all across of historical Palestine or the land of Israel, whatever you want to call it, right? And for people to have basic equal rights, both Palestinian, Muslim, Jewish people, everyone, so everyone can live in equally, because you have the Palestinians who were expelled from their homes in 1948, you have the Palestinians who are unable to return, you have the people obviously in Gaza and the West Bank. You're not going to solve the problem by continuing the regime of ethnocracy and supremacy. Deep diver question: what do you think about Jordan supporting Israel bypass the Houthi blockade on the Red Sea? I believe there was a huge protest by the people of Jordan against the royal regime. There they are, from what I heard, again, because we haven't seen direct images of those trucks going from the UAE, but the reports are they're going from the UAE through Saudi Arabia to Jordan to Haifa port in Israel. And yeah, obviously, many people won't be happy in Jordan. Jerry Swift, I subbed. Thank you. We have lots of Israeli flags with muscles here too. Many Palestinian flags with hearts. Nice. I mean, if we can ask questions instead of flags, that would be, or comment maybe. Defund APAC. Yeah, APAC is problematic, very problematic. BCFC Ireland, did you see the Channel 4 news report on the UNRWA lies? I haven't actually, but obviously the whole thing is flawed from the beginning. Yesterday I spoke about how it shouldn't have been released because an Israeli official in the Foreign Office in Israel, who is in charge of dealing with the UNRWA, he leaked it. He leaked information he got from an IDF leading figure in a conversation that was supposed to be confidential. And then the UNRWA official went and told the UNRWA in the US, and, excuse me, they went and stopped the funding for the UNRWA. Clearly, it was a coordinated attack. Princess Diana 18, can I get a shout out? Here we go, Princess Diana 18, shout out. Laureen Faith, God bless you. Mahmoud, thank you for keeping us informed. Thank you as well for your comments. Smart Papa, why is there no mention of Palestine and Jerusalem in the Quran? Very interesting question. The reference to Jerusalem in the Quran is Subhanalladhi, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-Masjid al-Harami ila al-Masjid al-Aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu. Al-Masjid al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem. As a matter of fact, Jerusalem was the first direction of prayer for Muslims. Palestine isn't mentioned as a land as it is Palestine, but it's mentioned in the reference of Al-Aqsa.